Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Big Akar Ahmad and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going ahead taking a look at Palestine in 1896. This is when cameras were first created, the video camera, the actual camera that you take pictures with. And this is very old footage. But it's going to go ahead and take us through what was going on in Palestine during that time, what were the cities called, what were the populations like, who lived there, and what was it like. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this.
15 years later, the cinema is taking its first steps. Cameramen employed by the Lumiere brothers filming at Jerusalem Station provide the first moving pictures taken in Palestine. From now on, the camera is a recording eye, and what it records is this: a society much like that of Cairo, Damascus, or Beirut, in an Arab city much like any other. By the end of the 19th century, Palestine has 500,000 inhabitants, of whom 30,000 live in Jerusalem. A veiled woman, a Sunni Muslim, one of the majority. An Orthodox Jew. He too turns away from the camera. Here we have an Armenian Pope. Each of the Christian denominations has its church here in the Holy City. The holy places of the three religions are scattered across a few hundred square meters. The Great Mosque is close to Christ's tomb. Further along, at the foot of the Wailing Wall, a Jew is reciting a prayer. He is wearing a Turkish tabush, and though he prays in Hebrew, his everyday language is Arabic.
So the opposite. So instead of the everyday language being Hebrew, the everyday language was Arabic, and he prayed in Hebrew. Similar to how Muslims will pray in Arabic, even if, like for instance, I live in the United States, I speak English on my YouTube channel, but when I go pray on my prayer rug, I don't pray in English, I pray in Arabic.
Jews form half the population of Jerusalem.
Jews form half the population of Jerusalem. So before they had their own country, before they were indigenous people in a lost land, they already took up half the population of Jerusalem. Like half of the most major city in Palestine. They were half the population in 1896, which is very interesting because they make it seem like there was no Jews in Palestine before, and they were all in Europe being beaten and tortured and burnt up. And but half the population of Israel here in Jerusalem is Jewish.
In the country as a whole, they make up less than 5% of the total. Christians account.
But in the country as a whole, they make up less than 5% of the country as a total. So 95% of the country is made up of other than Jewish.
For 10% and Muslims 85%.
Christians are 10%, Muslims are 85%. There's more Christians than Jews. There's more Muslims than both. That's how Palestine used to be. It's not so much the same anymore. There still is a lot of Muslims, if you're counting Israel and Palestine regions together. But yeah.
Percent. All of them are subjects of the Sultan of Constantinople. There are no frontiers in the Ottoman Empire. There are administrative divisions in which, in this immense territory, Palestine occupies a mere 27,000 square kilometers, made up of 3 small districts in the south of the province of Damascus. The same empire in the 17th century. In the meantime, it has lost the Balkans, France and Italy have seized North Africa. England has moved into Egypt, Aden, and even Kuwait.
That's crazy. Even at the end there, you can see the fall
and even Kuwait
of the Ottoman Empire and how it was taken and what it looked like before it fell and what it looked like after. The whole entire Ottoman Empire is kind of like what Palestine looked like when Palestine was what it was. Well, I just want to go ahead and take a look at that clip. It was a nice little 2-minute video to go ahead and watch. It's good to see how the people live there. It's good to see the cultural difference. It's good to see that there was Muslims and Jewish people and Christians all living in Jerusalem, all living in the same city. No one was blowing each other up in 1896. But not until 40 years later, when a Zionist leadership wrote letters and forced things into tuition to go ahead and create and foundate the state of Israel, is when all of this started happening. It's interesting that when we go back to 1896, you have Jews and Muslims and Christians walking, talking, knowing each other, living in the same cities, praying side by side, talking each other's languages, speaking each other's languages, and praying within their own languages, still being so connected to their own religions, and still being connected to their communities, even though they are different, they're connected to one another. That's how it was back then. It just is what it is. It's so sad that we've come to a spot today, we've come to a place today where we have so much information, we have the internet, we have all this technology, but people really just, they don't use it. They don't use it to educate themselves. They don't use it to understand anything, and it actually makes them more ignorant than people were before. People before, ignorance is bliss. What does that mean? That means the less that you know, the less you have to deal with, really. And now, because there's so much information everywhere, everyone wants to be right. Everyone wants to have an opinion. And everyone's ignorant about everything. From when they go to sleep to when they wake up, there's just ignorance flowing through our heads, including me. Because I see so much information, I know so much stuff now, it's getting jammed in my head. It's like, I feel like I have something to say for everything. I have a comment to make for everything. And that's just how it is. So, this was Palestine in 1896. Yes, it was called Palestine. This is what the region was called. It was broken up into 3 regions, as he said, which was Damascus, Jerusalem, and something else. And yeah, I mean, the lifestyle was much different. And the group of people that was there was much different. Still Jewish, Muslim, and Christian, living in peace and harmony, living perfectly fine. Jewish people have been living under Muslim rule for thousands and thousands of years, perfectly fine, until 1940s. If you guys want to learn more about the history on how Israel has started, how the Ottoman Empire had fallen, go ahead and check out World War I and World War II. Check out the Balfour Declaration, the letter that Sir Rockefeller wrote to the Parliament of the UK. Check these things out. Look at their timelines. Look how they all correspond to each other and move in. It has to do with the banks. It has to do with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds, were the ones who wrote the letter. The Rothschilds own the world banks. These are the individuals who are responsible for creating countries like Israel, for colonizing specific lands, and it's the banks who do it. It's the top head Zionist Jewish leaders who are doing this. They've taken over most of Europe. They've taken over most of North America and South America as far as financials go. And once you control the financials of a country, you control the country. You control the politics. You control everything about it. So that's the issue that we're having in the United States of America. Like, people wonder, like, why is the United States so up Israel's butt? Like, what does Israel do for the United States, right? And nothing, actually. Israel funds the United States. The reason the United States even exists is because of Jewish people. It's because of the Jewish banks and the Jewish industrial system. So we have to understand that we're paid and bought for by Jewish people. So our government, our companies, they run that way. And there's nothing we can do about it. And that's fine. That's the way the world works. And I'm more than fine with that. The problem is when we're genociding people, and people are second-class citizens, and your religion tells you that you're better than everyone else, and you're God's chosen people, and everyone else is a snake, and you should stomp on their head, and it's okay if you kill them, but they can't kill you. It's okay if you lie upon them, but they can't lie upon you. It's okay to charge them interest and use them and create usury and enslave them, but it's not okay for them to do that to you. So I find it very interesting that a lot of the Judaistic fundamentals are, I'm better than everyone and I can do whatever I want to anyone else, but nobody else can do anything to me. This victimhood mentality that goes around and colonizes and destroys everyone else, but you can't say anything or look anything back to them because they're chosen, they were born special. And this is literally the Jewish belief. So that is the only issue I really have with the Jewish community, with Jewish people, is that sense of, what's it called? Superiority? But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for supremacy. Jewish supremacy. Supremacist ideology is what it is. And that is what we're sick of. This is what the world needs gone. It's the same thing that the black people of Africa wanted gone in North America 100 years ago when they wanted to be free from slavery and so forth, with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and these movements. Like, it's the same thing. Any people that are going through a area where they're being genocided or enslaved or whatever the case may be, they want freedom. They want freedom. They want to be free. And we're hitting that stage here with the Middle East. And it's not just Palestine, but it's the whole Middle East. The whole Middle East is done. They want to be free. It's been too long. They've been being blown up by the Western powers. Proxy groups like ISIS, Taliban, Al-Qaeda have been funded billions and billions of dollars by the United States, Saudi Arabia, and Israel to completely destroy the infrastructure of countries like Iraq, like Syria, like Lebanon, like Libya, like Egypt. Every single country has gone through a entire civil war or has gone through some type of revolt against their president, and that's not by accident. The groups that are the worst terrorist groups in the world are not Hamas or Hezbollah coming from Palestine or Lebanon. They're ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. And the people who fund those groups and gave them all their weapons and all their money is the United States and Israel and Saudi Arabia. So the Western world, they complain about Osama bin Laden, but they're the ones who trained Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden is a CIA operative. They complain about Osama bin Laden and 9/11 and the Twin Towers. And Osama bin Laden is from Saudi Arabia. Did they go to Saudi Arabia look for Osama bin Laden? No. You know where they went? Afghanistan. You know where they went? Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. We need to take out Saddam. These are all excuses. We're fighting proxy wars. We're playing excuses. It's very, very sad to see the amount of people who lost their lives, the amount of games that have been played, and the amount of countries in the Middle East that have fallen over the last 30 years because of the Western hand and Western influence and push and proxy groups and funding of terrorism that the West has done all over the Middle East over the last 30 years. But the Arab world is getting sick of it, and they are fighting back. And there's not much left in the Middle East. There's Lebanon and Iran. Iran is fully fired up. There is a ceasefire in Lebanon, yes, but don't think that you cannot provoke them. And this is very, very, very sad to see, and it's very, very sad to say, but we're reaching a breaking point, and you can only go so far without violence. You can only talk so much until it becomes physical, and we've reached that stage where we're too far into the mix, we're too far into the problems, and it's important to know the history. It's important to know the present and what's happening now, and it's important to know what could happen later based on the history and what is happening now. What is going to happen for our future? What's going to happen for your children, your children's children, and so forth. So this is something that we need to think about. This is something that we need to reflect on, and thank you guys for coming in today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you want to go ahead and watch the original video, link will be down in the description below. But this was Palestine in 1896. God bless every single one of you, and until next time, peace in the Middle East, peace in the whole world, and bye-bye.